Everybody. I think now what we'll do is Group 1 were last to come back, but they could ask Group 1 if they would like to make a little report on what they've been discussing. Right, John, you want to come down? I'll give you a microphone.
Indeed. I've got to congratulate the facilitator, Donald, who led the group extremely efficiently and, shall I say, directly. The participation of the group was excellent, and I'm delighted to report that 2 topics were chosen, one on health and social care, and the other one was on communication. On health and social care, we suggest that SOPA urgently calls for mandatory representation on the new integrated joint boards and continuous continuous involvement of older people in the design and delivery of services. I could enlarge on that, but I'll leave it at that. On communication, SOPA calls on the Scottish Government to properly resource a range of readily available person-centred communication options, including non-digital materials, including hearing loop systems, and ensuring compliance through regular audit and rectification. Other points covering that: concerns raised on provision of mental health services for older people, and GP involvement in health and social care assessment and planning. Thank you very much, Chair.
So could I ask Group 2 now to give their report?
Thank you. Well, the 2 issues that came through were age discrimination and carers as well. So the first action point was SOPA should investigate concerns regarding funding allocations of the therapeutic services, which are based at the moment on over 65s or adult. You know, you're in one or other category. So the minute you hit 65, you're in the over 65 category, and there's actually less money around for that age group. And this is particularly important in the light of the establishment of joint integration boards. Also, SOPA should investigate the availability of lawyers to develop a test case of the Equality Act 2012, because what's happening at the chalk face is not what is in the Act. The second point is about carers. SOPA should request statistics regarding carers' assessments and entitlement to benefits, and should link with carers' associations who have a lot of these facts and figures at their fingertips to look at the evidence of the financial savings of kingship carers.
We talked about various things, but in fact the priority topics came up. That SOPA calls on Scottish Government to create a way to have community input into care homes and care at home service as part of maintaining standards and improving the lives of the older people that are there. SOPA would also ask Scottish Government to ensure that people who work in the care field are given suitable respect for the job, that they're paid appropriate salaries and are given meaningful training, and the care at home service to try and have more continuity of care, you know, not changing the people constantly, which is difficult.
Now, we looked at the 2 areas. One was community empowerment and the other one was health and social care. In the community empowerment, as I say, we didn't actually come up with action things. We've got a series of statements we came up with that we'd like to put forward. In the community empowerment, people want clarity and how they can engage with the bill. And we felt that we need more information, so we would like that. We want to see education courses around citizenship that should address the needs of older people, to enable the older people to engage fully with the bill. So we're looking for some information there. In the role of volunteers in this area, we felt that we needed to have some sort of program there as well, so that the volunteers were knowledgeable and need action courses to be done there. We would look for the government to resource these to make accessibility to these courses to all, including that for older people as well. In the health and social care, like John, we would like voting on the integrated health boards, somebody there with the voting rights on the integration health boards. We would like the evaluating of the impact of the models that are already in place. As I say, with the health and social care, there are some models that are already in place at the moment. We would like to see preventative services to be tested, to be treated as importantly as clinical services. Thank you.
We looked at all these 6 things and we decided that number 5, retirement, pensions and money matters, was 3 separate subjects. So we've chosen 2 out of that. And the first part was about funerals. As the cost of funerals spiral, SOPA calls on the Scottish Government to explore in partnership with older people and funeral directors associations. And why cannot funeral service be run as a social enterprise? The second part was about energy. SOPA calls on the Scottish Government to work with the energy companies to create a fairer pricing system, idea paperless bills, and energy including gas and electricity joint tariffs, which are all wrong, we thought. Right, thank you.
The 2 subjects that Group 6 picked were health and social care and pensions and money matters. On the health and social care, voting representation for older people in the integrated partnerships, budgets, etc. Care of older people should be underpinned by human rights legislation. Quality, dignity, living wage, care standards, more money needed, and good practice. On the pensions and money matters, pensions should be above the poverty line. Inequality, women are going to be the big losers in the new state pension. And regulation of private crematorium costs. Thank you.
Just before we move on, is there anyone else from any of the groups who wanted to make a point to this or something that hasn't been covered that they'd like to say now?
One of the things which came in the discussion in committee room 1, that was my room, you see, health and social care and communication, you see. Everybody asked, if you do this, where will the money come from? Now, I've got an idea that you don't really need new money. You can redistribute and reorganize the money that you have to improve the service. For example, elderly people who are housebound and you don't have technical knowledge about the computer, they need practical training to learn or improve their computing skill. Now, that is very expensive. One of my next door lady was a 90-year-old lady. Her computer broke down. She was in tears. She didn't know what to do. She contacted the engineer. He said, £40 per hour, which is the fact. Now, the IT student and computing student, when they're studying at the college or university, they have to do some practical courses. And they go to big businesses, big IT companies, big health boards, to learn things and do practical things, you see. If it was made compulsory in their curriculum that each student will teach 10 older people how to use the computer, then each older people can teach their neighbor how to do it, then you don't need extra money. The present asset that you have got, the present system will cover all that. So this is one way of doing it, and there are various other ways you can use the same technology in health service to improve health service, prevention service, and everything.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Audrey from the Berwickshire Wellbeing Group. One of the other things that came up in our discussion was in terms of accessing funding for smaller community sort of grassroots groups, just please, where we can, if SOPA could call upon the funding applications and processes to be easier, because at the moment they're like mountains to climb often when you get a funding application form, and it really puts people off getting involved and trying to raise funds to do things. Please make them easier and more accessible and more understandable. So thank you.
Somebody from our group brought a bombshell out, which we didn't realise, that if you go into care and someone comes into your house to care for you, and you pay that person, say £50 a week, that person would then have to pay tax on that money, but you would have to provide that person with a pension under the new Pension Act. So it opens up a minefield for that, which was very common.
Thanks, Alan.
One of the other things that we discussed in our group, 5, very important, and we put this to the MSPs that are here at the moment. How many pensioners are drawn food banks? And PS, how many of those pensioners are veterans? Remember, a lot of pensioners that are veterans were unfairly treated when it come to the pension. They weren't entitled to a pension pre-1975. How many of these people are going to the food banks?
Thanks, Jerry.
Just a wee point on positive age discrimination. If you're pestered by a cold telephone caller, just say you're 80 and they'll hang up.
Well, how do you follow that? I'm 65. I've got a few years to go before I can pull that stunt on anybody. But one thing that struck me that came out a lot in the discussions today and at other times is if you look at issues like age, you can't easily separate them out from health, disability and caring, and probably other issues as well. So I think we need to start addressing how we actually integrate these things, which are in service terms a bit separate, but in reality they're very close together in some people's lives. And I think we've still to crack that problem as to how we actually integrate what we do as a society, what we pay our taxes for, what we ask our politicians to do on our behalf around those kind of big areas. Much easier to set up a separate committee for each one, much harder to actually pull them all together.
Absolutely. Right.
Mine was really a follow-on from the bus concession. Alec this morning extolled the virtues of the bus concession, and it's great that we have bus concessions, but we haven't got back to dealing with the regulation of buses. The deregulation of buses has meant that the rural areas don't get buses to take people to the shops. So therefore we're into food banks, we're into not able to get cheap food from supermarkets. So my plea, in fact, is to start having the discussion within the Scottish Parliament about the regulation of certain bus routes. Thank you.
I brought up a topic about scooters. I don't know how many people in this room need to have a scooter yet, but we're all heading that way. At this time, you cannot take a scooter onto a Lothian bus. Now, when I went down to England last year, I found that Stagecoach do allow scooters on the buses. And my friend who has one and I are going on the new train. And in order to do this, she had to see that her combined mass of herself and her scooter did not exceed £600. Now, I think that's pretty fair. So can we have something done about this business of scooters on the buses, please?
Thank you. Can I ask the MSPs if they would like to, at the moment, comment on any of the points made so far, and then we'll allow you to put direct questions to them if you want to.